Have you ever found yourself just staring at a two-word text message? You get a, haha, yeah, maybe, and your brain immediately kicks into overdrive trying to map this hidden universe of punctuation and response time and emoji intent.
Oh, absolutely. Or you're in a Zoom meeting, you're giving your big pitch, and you see someone's face flicker for just a split second.
Yes. And you can't tell, was that genuine surprise?
Yeah.
Or was that just politely masked confusion?
Exact.
That moment, that intense effort to decode the unspoken, where your internal social radar just goes haywire, that is the quiet, essential power of emotional intelligence.
It really is. It's what we call social awareness at work.
And it's the difference really between feeling like you belong
Yeah.
and feeling like you're just constantly missing the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're doing a deep dive into how emotional intelligence, or EI, is rapidly becoming this critical hybrid master skill, especially for Generation Z.
Right, so we're talking about individuals born roughly between 1997 and 2012.
And we're going to be analyzing its impact across their career success, their leadership potential, and maybe most importantly, their highly digitalized relationships.
Our mission today really is to understand the unique emotional landscape that Gen Z inhabits. We need to identify the specific EI components they have to master to not just survive, but to, really thrive in a world that's just so volatile.
So for anyone new to this, how are we defining EI, just for clarity?
A great question. So generally, it's the ability to recognize, understand, and then manage your own emotions.
Okay, your own stuff first.
Your own stuff first. And then, crucially, the emotions of others. And to frame this whole discussion, we'll be using Daniel Goleman's 5 pillars.
The classic framework.
The classic. You've got self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation. Those are your internal skills. And then you have the external ones, empathy, which is often called social awareness, and social skills, which is basically relationship management.
And you need all 5 working together for this to actually click.
You do. They're all interconnected.
So to really understand why EI is such a strategic necessity for this generation, we have to look at their context.
Absolutely.
Gen Z are true digital natives.
Mm.
I mean, they grew up with constant access to technology, which is a huge strength for processing information.
A massive strength. But the flip side is that many of their formative social experiences, their education, it was all mediated through a screen, not face-to-face.
And that technological fluency, it developed against this backdrop of just deep instability.
Yeah, think about it. They watched older millennials struggle through the Great Recession, deal with crushing student debt. And then, just as they were entering the workforce,
The pandemic hits.
the pandemic hits.
Right.
And it just fundamentally disrupts everything. They missed out on crucial in-person mentorships, those internships that teach you the ropes.
Even just the casual office conversation where you learn how to read a room or handle a spontaneous disagreement.
All of that was gone. And it created this profound emotional challenge. The data from sources like the McKinsey Health Institute is, well, it's pretty stark.
It is. It confirms that Gen Z reports the lowest levels of mental and emotional well-being globally. They inherited an unstable world and were then physically isolated during a key developmental window.
And that instability, it fundamentally shapes what they prioritize in their professional lives. This isn't just about a paycheck for them.
No, it's so much more. Their career has to blend with their mission. The data on their career drivers is fascinating. A massive 86% cite purpose as a key driver for job satisfaction.
86%, that's huge.
And here's where it gets really interesting, especially for leaders listening right now. Beyond purpose, they demand structural support. 77% say flexibility, and they mean real work-life balance, is absolutely essential.
And they'll walk if they don't get it.
They will.
Yeah.
And on the mental health front, 61% would actively leave a job for another one that offers stronger mental health benefits. Their expectations are literally forcing a culture shift toward a more emotionally literate workplace.
And this brings us right to the core paradox of Gen Z's emotional profile. This is, I think, the key insight from the sources. They actually possess a naturally elevated level of self-awareness.
So they're good at spotting the problem in themselves.
Very good. They are highly skilled at identifying stressors, recognizing burnout, auditing their own internal states. I mean, formal assessments consistently show this component of Goleman's framework scores highest for them.
Okay, but what does that mean in practice? Because it sounds like there's a but coming.
There's a big but. The challenge is this disconnect between awareness and action. You have to see self-awareness as the diagnostic tool.
Right, it tells you what the problem is. It names the burnout. It identifies the anxiety trigger.
Exactly. But self-regulation is the necessary treatment. It's the ability to pause, choose a response, and then execute a coping strategy.
And if that's underdeveloped,
If self-regulation is underdeveloped, that high level of awareness actually becomes a liability. Knowing you're stressed, knowing you're burned out, but lacking the internal skills to intervene, that just amplifies the distress.
so it's like having a perfect diagnosis for a broken leg, but you have no idea how to set the bone or apply a cast.
That's a perfect analogy. You can describe the pain in excruciating detail, but you can't do anything to stop it.
So in a high-pressure work environment, this might look
Mhm.
like them being able to perfectly articulate their stress in a performance review, but then freezing up when you ask for a solution.
Precisely. They can name the causes and symptoms, but that self-directed, here's how I'll cope mechanism isn't fully honed yet. And we see this need for stability reflected in their career choices, too.
They're more risk-averse, right?
Very much so. They often choose prestigious, big-name jobs over, say, a mission-driven startup, at least in the short term, because those big institutions feel like they offer more stability, more security.
So they're prioritizing that emotional and financial security until they feel like they have a solid footing.
Exactly. And that inherent drive for stability means that for any organization hoping to retain Gen Z, high EI in leadership is, well, it's no longer a soft skill, it's a strategic necessity.
If the leader can't demonstrate empathy and manage relationships, they're gone. Retention just tanks.
Right. Leaders with high EI create environments where these employees can actually thrive. They excel in those external competencies we mentioned, social awareness and relationship management.
Meaning they're spotting the early signs of burnout, not just by looking at a dashboard.
But by actually tuning into the social energy of the team. They're equipped to respond with genuine empathy and, critically, with clarity when they have to deliver difficult feedback.
The data underpinning this it's really startling. Studies show that those 4 EI dimensions, self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, and relationship management together, they explain 52% of the variance in workplace performance among Gen Z.
52%. That's more than half of what separates a top performer from an average one.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And which ones are the strongest predictors?
If you dig into that number, the two strongest are relationship management and self-awareness, which suggests that the ability to navigate team dynamics and, manage your own integrity, those are paramount.
It's not just about your technical skill, it's about how you function within the human system of the company.
Exactly. And this leads right to that soft skills gap dilemma.
Right, because they missed those face-to-face developmental years, they're now trying to compensate.
Hmm.
Our sources show 65% ask for weekly feedback.
Which on the surface sounds great.
It does,
Yeah.
but it raises a fascinating question. Is this a healthy drive for self-development, or is it a hidden request for constant validation because they lack the internal regulation to trust their own choices?
I think it's both. And a good manager needs to be able to parse the difference. On one hand, yes, asking for feedback shows high self-awareness. They know they missed something.
They know there's a gap.
But on the other hand, if that feedback is required just to relieve their anxiety, it points right back to a failure of self-regulation. High EI leadership knows how to transition that employee from asking, am I doing this right, every week?
To building the internal confidence so they can start asking, what criteria should I use to evaluate my own work?
Exactly. It's about building an internal compass instead of constantly relying on an external GPS.
Okay, now let's take that same soft skills deficit and look at where it has its most dramatic impact, their personal lives. Specifically, digital dating.
Oh, absolutely. If EI deficiency causes instability at the office, it causes a whole new kind of ambiguity in their relationships. The reliance on the screen has created what we call digital body language, or DBL.
DBL. Okay, so that's the whole suite of nonverbal cues that now define interaction. Response times, emoji choice.
Capitalization, punctuation, the typing bubble that appears and then disappears.
Yeah.
That's the new equivalent of crossed arms or averted eye contact. And it holds this substantial, anxious power.
And this reliance on DBL creates a huge paradox, right? Because the research shows 90% of Gen Z users are actively looking for meaningful, honest relationships.
They are. Yet the ambiguity baked into DBL just amplifies anxiety and hesitation. Everyone's constantly overanalyzing that vague, haha, yeah, maybe, or spiraling because a reply came 17 minutes later than the last one.
So what's the outcome? What kind of relationship models are born from this?
The outcome is a model built on emotional hedging. We see the rise of situationships.
Situationships. So relationships with real emotional and physical intimacy, but, and this is the key, they lack clear boundaries, labels, or long-term intentions.
That's it exactly. And if you analyze a situationship through the lens of EI, you can see why it appeals to a risk-averse generation.
It offers connection without the vulnerable accountability of a clear label.
Right. If you never define the relationship, you can never experience the definitive failure of a breakup. It's a mechanism for avoiding emotional risk.
And this avoidance, it bleeds into their digital accountability too, right? With things like ghosting, breadcrumbing, benching.
Absolutely. And mental health experts are very clear on this. Ghosting, that sudden stop in communication with no explanation, it can feel like a profound form of emotional abandonment to the person on the receiving end.
And that contributes heavily to anxiety and distrust in future connections.
It does. It's fundamentally a failure of relationship management, an inability to manage the discomfort of a necessary, honest conversation.
So the EI solution here is about achieving mastery. It means moving past that deep-seated fear of rejection, what some reports have called cringe mode.
It really does. It requires practicing good DBL and actually setting boundaries. Good DBL is about turning those internal EI pillars into external communication practices.
So you have to use self-regulation to resist that impulse to overanalyze fleeting digital cues.
Yes. And you have to deploy your social skills, your clarity to set healthy boundaries. Practically, this means timeliness. Reply thoughtfully within a reasonable time frame. An hour or two is fine. Or just send the quick note saying, hey, I'm tied up. I'll reply properly tonight.
And the other half of that is clarity. Stop relying on ambiguous punctuation.
Yeah.
Use emojis sparingly but intentionally. If you're enthusiastic, use an exclamation mark. The goal is to reduce ambiguity, not hide behind it.
It moves beyond just digital politeness. It becomes a genuine expression of emotional honesty.
So developing all this is clearly a journey. It requires small, consistent practices. You have to build that emotional muscle.
Think of them as necessary mini mental workouts. And we've actually extracted 7 of the most impactful techniques from our sources to give you a practical roadmap.
Okay, let's break them down.
We can organize them into internal and external mastery. For internal mastery, that's your self-awareness and self-regulation, you start with conscious monitoring of action and values.
Which means?
It just means regularly pausing to ask yourself, why do I do the things that I do? If you're prioritizing financial security over purpose, for example, just acknowledge that trade-off. Understand the emotional roots driving it. It ensures your decisions align with your authentic self.
And what about in-the-moment self-regulation?
For that, you practice stress management through breath work. The next time you feel conflict rising, whether it's in traffic or from a text message, consciously pause for 5 seconds. Take 3 focused breaths before you react. That tiny interruption stops the immediate emotional hijack.
It gives you back the power to choose your response.
Exactly. Now, for external calibration, that's empathy and social skills, start with emotion scanning. During any conversation, just take quick, non-judgmental mental notes of the emotions present, both in you and in the other person.
You're just mapping the emotional territory.
You are. Then you pair that with active observation. Notice the nonverbal cues, posture, hand gestures, eye contact, but without immediately analyzing them. Just absorb the data. Are they leaning in or away? Are their hands open or clenched?
And to get even more granular.
To deepen that, try micro-expression recognition. During brief encounters, like ordering coffee, notice the fleeting facial expressions that happen in milliseconds. They often reveal a person's true feelings before they're masked. It's a quick, low-stakes way to sharpen your social radar.
I like that. What's next?
Next is context reading, or what you could call social energy mapping. When you walk into a room, just mentally step back and ask, what's the emotional energy flow here? Is it tense? Is it relaxed? Is it chaotic? This lets you calibrate your own energy to the group dynamic.
And the final one.
Finally, you have to master the perspective shift. During any disagreement at work or at home, just pause. Mentally put yourself in the other person's position. Ask what concern or fear is driving their viewpoint right now.
And the point isn't to agree with them.
Not at all. The point is to achieve genuine understanding of what motivates them. That is the cornerstone of empathy.
So if we bring this all together,
To summarize our deep dive, emotional intelligence is really the transversal skill Gen Z needs to transform their inherent self-awareness, their sophisticated emotional diagnosis, into active, reliable self-regulation. That's the treatment.
and that mastery is the key to closing that soft skills gap.
It is. It's the key to achieving the authenticity and the secure relationships they so deeply desire across every single part of their lives.
And if Gen Z is truly the generation committed to seeking truth over blindly chasing forever in their relationships and their careers, then the ultimate measure of their emotional intelligence will be their courage.
Mm.
It's going to be their courage to engage in honest, vulnerable, unfiltered communication rather than continuing to settle for the protective, anxious ambiguity of digital cues.
Mhm.
That vulnerability, that's the final step toward true emotional freedom.